Yes, everybody, you know what time it is. It's your boys Jack and Dave here to provide you your Twitter reacts post Palace defeat, 1-0 loss to Palace away from home. Just one of those days where it did feel like a very, very bad day at the office. One of the worst days at the office we've had in some time now. Ange Postecoglou's form away from home has not been improving, has not been that great over the past, I think, season and also maybe towards the end of last season. Plenty of sadly maybe more negative, kind of more perspective things that we have to talk about when it comes to the squad, Ange Postecoglou, and things in general. So strap yourselves in for that deep intellectual discussions around Tottenham Hotspur. Is hopefully also maybe some laughs here and there to brighten the mood as best we can. But yes, Dave, we're going into another Twitter reacts, and unfortunately, the winning streak has come to an end. We have to give a less more somber Twitter reacts this time.
No, look, it is, but we win games, we enjoy it. We lose games, we've got to go through the fallout at the end of the day. Look,
Very true.
one thing I would say, and one thing I was thinking about, Jack, is you know the games at Newcastle, Arsenal, Leicester, they left you with hope. Even Brighton left you with hope because the performances were there. Yesterday leaves you with absolutely no hope off the back of it because there was no performance there.
Mm,
There's nothing good to really cling on to from yesterday's performance. There's no sort of any silver lining to it as maybe there
yeah.
was to other defeats. So I think that's what's really tough to take. And look, our away form is alarming. I pointed it out in the pre-match build-up when a lot of Spurs fans were confident. I said, look, I'm not confident about this. Our away form is piss
Yeah.
poor. I've got some stats here for people today. I think we've lost so far. We've got 4 defeats in 9 Premier League games. I think one of our worst starts to a season in like nearly 10 years. And in Tottenham's last 37 Premier League games, won 16, drawn 5, lost 16.
Mm.
So it's a very sort of mixed bag of results right now. And I think the big debate comes to around Ange Postecoglou, Jack. Some would argue changing a manager isn't going to solve anything because the squad lacks leaders. So then the big question is, if Tottenham were to bring leaders into the dressing room, would some of these things change that we're seeing under Ange Postecoglou, the inconsistencies? And then some people would say, look, he's getting tactically outclassed. And when you look at that Palace game yesterday, there's probably an argument to it because I do feel like that in other games where I put it down to individual errors, I don't think we're tactically outclassed. Yesterday, we were.
Yeah, we actually were more in that game tactically outclassed. And then what's really frustrating is actually the goal that we ended up conceding as well. You could say then was a combination of maybe some areas that Oliver Glasner was really exploiting in that high press of his, but also just maybe really poor individually from the case of Van de Ven, Romero, Vicario, pretty much everybody involved. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Spurs, going to be talking about Ange. Everybody, so strap yourselves in to get into the comments as well. Smash the like button. And if you want to support the channel as well, think about becoming a member. It does a really great service to us and get to grow even closer to this community as well. Good to see Artist T in the house saying, in all fairness, if you take away Europe, league wise, we've been very poor. This 2024 in general form is relegation levels. I think that's kind of what's been on a lot of people's minds for a while now under Ange Postecoglou is while we did go on that great winning form, it came at a very needed time because some of those stats were coming about, with how maybe poor the run of results had been over kind of a long stretch of games, not even just a short amount. Jamie McDonald saying piss poor. I think I agree with you there,
Yep.
Jamie. John Lee saying we are terrible yesterday, front and back. Completely agree, John Lee, from the front to the back. I think at first we were trying to give some excuses to the forward line, but then eventually the forward line started to let us down as well. Just everybody had a bad day at the office. Everybody just wasn't playing well. K32 saying, hello, Dave and Jack. Hope you are well. What an absolutely pathetic and spineless performance yet
Yep.
again from Spurs. And sad thing is, we've seen these kind of performances for years with Spurs. It's been very sad. It did kind of remind you of similar Dr. Tottenham performances in the past, but this one kind of had a lack of effort, a lack of fight, but also, like Dave said as well, kind of a bit of us being outclassed, to be honest, by the opposition, just being outsmarted and being clearly worked out by the opposition too. Clearly, they knew what sort of type of style we had and what we were going to try to do to build out from the back because they made life very difficult on us, and we didn't seem to have any answers even by the 90th minute. It just was a complete domination by Palace. K32. John Bostich saying, big up, gents. Georgie Hill saying, big up, lads. On a positive note, we're back to Dr. Tottenham. We'll go and smash City on Wednesday. I think that's hopefully the case if if Dr. Tottenham works that sort of way where it's only around for one game. And then the next day, we're back to the formidable Spurs that we would love to be. But Dave, any words before we descend into the chaos of some Twitter reacts here, sir?
All I can say is we've got a big game Wednesday night, and them players. they owe us a performance. So they better get out there and put it in. I don't want to hear any apologies. Don't want to hear any excuses. They're gone after that Palace game yesterday. But look, let's get into the fallout of Twitter, Jack, and let's see how the fans are feeling.
Just
And I
quickly
just
to.
want to say,
Mhm.
by the way, everyone's entitled to their opinion. So, if people are backing Ange, don't berate them. If people are not, don't berate them on that side either. At the end of the day, we're all fans of this football club. We all feel it, and we're
Well
all
said.
entitled to our opinions.
Well said,
And they're
Dave.
and they're not necessarily our opinions. We'll give our opinions off the back of things, but don't berate us for other people's opinions.
I was going to quickly add to that, actually. Part of what makes Twitter X beautiful is that it is the opportunity for others who are on this platform to give their say, give their opinions. And then Dave and I, of course, are giving our reactions to these people as opinions. Not necessarily is it the case that we hold these opinions ourselves. We're just giving our reactions to these various takeaways, these various opinions. And of course, there will be some funny jokes as well for this one, but that is just, the whole point of the show is just to let other people have their say and see how we react to other people's say when it comes to this team, as well as the downfall or the fallout of the last game. MV Joker Davis saying, "I'll cheer you up, Jacko, by smacking you in a game of FIFA." I am
You won't.
finally back on the FIFA. I'm out of retirement. I played pretty awful towards the end of the day in pro clubs. I started off strong, Edward, where I was playing well, getting some assists, getting some goals, and then kind of maybe some FIFA fatigue might have come in here because, like I said, I've taken a bit of time away from FIFA. It's been a while since I played. So I think what might have happened, Dave, was you start out strong, bit of adrenaline in the first 2 or 3 games. You're hyper focused. And then maybe all that hyper focus drained me a little bit because by the time that you got on for our last few games, I was absolutely useless. Like, think of Richarlison in that Crystal Palace game times 1,000, in terms of uselessness. Like, I couldn't even get more than one touch on the ball without giving it away to the opposition and leaking, a really dangerous counterattack. It was getting pretty ugly towards the end there, Edward. So if you were to play me maybe at the end of last night, I think you would have absolutely smacked me. I was devoid of all confidence, but maybe new day, new me, new FIFA player. That's what I'm going to say.
And Eddie, you won't beat me. The form I was on last night was absolutely impeccable, my man. Mr. Do It All. I came in, the boys stuck me on right wing. I was like, hang on here a minute. I need to be involved in the play here. Don't stick me out on the right wing. Done a little bit job there, defensively and going forward. And I said, hang on a minute. I need to take that playmaker role. But then I felt bad for booting Sean out of it because he was there before me. So I said, I played a deep line playmaker. And once I went in there, Eddie, it was night over for everybody else, to be brutally honest.
Dave can play playmaker anywhere, Eddie. You know that he can play make from any part of the position. He could be a goalkeeper, and he'll be making moves, making things happen. But big up to you, Eddie. Really appreciate your support, my friend. John Bostich, good to see you. Saying we need Man City. We need to beat Man City and bring back our hope. I definitely agree there. And he also says we
Mm.
spoke about the games of truth against the managers like Glasner, Frank, and so on. There you see who is the master and who is our servant. Our answer to their questions just weren't good enough, and our questions were non-existent. Alpesh Patel saying Ange always gets our thoughts by managers on the same level in the Prem who are new to it. Ange always gets out thought by managers on the same level in the Prem who are now even new to it. I mean, does Ange get out thought on a regular basis? I wouldn't say so. Like, you look at some of the games like against Newcastle, where I felt like we really did dominate Newcastle for majority of that game, especially in the second half. We just couldn't finish. You look at Everton, absolutely destroyed them. You look at the likes of Leicester City. That is one of the luckiest performances I've ever seen by a side in Leicester City. They were just dominated from minute one all the way up until the moment that we scored. Again, just a simple case of Spurs just not able to put the ball in the back of the net despite having a plethora of chances. And dare I say this, even in the Arsenal game, I have heard Arsenal fans say that we got dominated in that game by Spurs. We were very lucky to get out of there with all 3 points. So even people who are Arsenal fans would say that Spurs were close to, if not the better team in that North London derby. So I would say that Ange Postecoglou, the majority of the games this season, has not necessarily been outthought. But in this last game, I'm not going to say that he wasn't. I think there very much was a game plan by Crystal Palace and a work to the T, and we could not do anything about it. We had no answers for it.
See, this whole out thought starts to lose meaning a bit for me, or out tactic starts to lose meaning for me because it's the go to after every single defeat. And that's where my problem comes with it. I think we really have to distinguish what defeats come down to lack of leadership on the pitch, which comes in lack of communication, getting a grip of the situation, etc. And what ones come down to being out tactic. For me, the Palace one, potentially the Arsenal one to a degree because of how they usually play anyway.
True.
Maybe you would argue out tactic. For the rest, for me, it's just simply come down to lack of leadership on the pitch, and stuff like that. And that's why I said I beg the question. Are what we seeing down to a manager that's been out tacticked or lack of leadership? And maybe the summer transfer window coming back to haunt us to a certain degree from not bringing in them sort of leaders. Like I've said before, if a little fat Irish man like me can sit there and say, "Oh, I think we've missed a trick not bringing in a couple more experienced players or leaderships here, and that's going to come back to bite us," how can someone in the club not see it?
Hennessy's joined us as well. Good to see you, Hennessy. Hopefully you are okay, my friend. And he's saying Ange Pasta don't know what to do. I don't know if Dave and I know what to do at this moment in time with ourselves there, Hennessy. Sean McSweeney, Ange Pasta, no clue. It's being brought back. Jackson De Silva as well, not top one team. Sadly, not at this moment in time. But let's get into it, everybody. Oop, Artist T is in here as well. Thank you for the support, Artist. Saying more pressure should be on Longa as well as Scott Munn than there is on Ange Postecoglou. There's a reason why Villa fans celebrated his departure. I miss Gabonini, and I can't wait for Paratici
In
to come back.
fairness, I did bring up Johan Lang over the summer, and I did question: does this guy know how to get deals across the line? Does he have the connections that Paratici had to be able to get the deals across the line? Does he have the know-how how to negotiate deals? Even when Paratici had nothing in the budget, he was still able to bring players in here with a loan, with a guarantee to purchase down the line. And I did bring that up in the summer. I did question it, and a lot of the lashback, well, not lashback, but a lot of the pushback I got was it's too soon to judge.
Yeah. In the case of Paratici, I think we're all desperate to have him back as quickly as we can because in the case of Paratici, I think we know that he's a guy that can get deals over the line. He can also get deals over the line in a very Levy type of way where it can be structured in installments, broken down through different payments, not just all cash sum, all up in one go. He knows how to be able to get the right player over the line, but also know how to do it in terms of Daniel Levy's preference of the finances. And then also Paratici as well was able to bring in experienced players, but then also bring in young, talented ones at the same time that could reinvigorate the squad. And I think he struck that balance really well. And we also know that he was in the midst of kind of reinvigorating that youth academy and bringing in young, very talented guys through, but also being able to just kind of reshape the whole ethos and as well as the mentality of the youth academy and how they were going to try to bring players through. So Paratici was spinning multiple plates at once, and he was spinning those plates very,
Mm,
very well at the time that he was here. And then he even was so good that the guy that he left behind when he was banned, Gabonini, was not too bad at his job either. So that's just how good
mm,
Paratici was, that he even had people like Gabonini around to take on the burden of being the director of football at Spurs, and he still did a fantastic job. So
mm,
Paratici, Dave and I have always said we're extremely thankful for. It's probably one of the best takes that we've ever had on this channel is being very loyal to the guy and being very praising of the guy. And Johan Lang has a lot of work to do in terms of meeting up with his reputation. As for Scott Munn, I'll be honest, it's not like I've even noticed one little bit of
He's not a
impact on
director of
his.
football, though, Jack. I
Not a
think people
director of
get.
football. He's more of a bird's eye view kind of guy over the
Mm,
whole club, from the women's team to
yeah.
the youth academy to the men's team. If I were to be kind to Scott Munn, you might argue that his impact at the club, you would only notice maybe years down the line, 4 or 5 years, you start to notice kind of some changes in around the club, maybe see some deals being brought through, start to see the elevation of the women's team, start to see the elevation of the men's team, as well as the academy. I think Scott Munn is kind of a all-encompassing sort of person for the whole ethos of the club football wise. And that might take a long time for us to actually truly notice um, any changes in.
Scott Munn was brought in here for what he done for the Olympics when I think he brought them to Australia and various other sports teams. Is he's here to grow them commercially, but also in terms of looking out for opportunities. Like you see the new training ground and that's going to be built for the women and stuff like that. That's what he's here for. He's nothing to do with the transfer side of things. Don't get me wrong, he probably sits in on meetings and looks at the finances and shit like that, but he has nothing to do with identifying players whatsoever.
But yeah, I think we would all can't wait for Parachi to return at some point. Artist T, really appreciate your support, my friend. Hopefully you're doing okay this
Mm.
Monday. But let's get into it, everybody. If you can for us, smash that like button. Do let us know your thoughts on the game, as well as get into the comments and give your reactions to each of these tweets as well. And also, if you do want to support the channel and become a member, we'd be very appreciative of it. Join this large community, very unique community, very fun community, funny community, good people around here. And I think you would enjoy it and get extra content with that as well. Gus saying Dr. Tottenham could perform open heart surgery blindfolded. Yes, they could. Tottenham Askey saying I was only half watching because I'm at a family dinner. Seeing people say that's the worst Tottenham performance ever. Was it really that bad? Worst performance under Ange Postecoglou for you, Dave?
Oh, look, I don't think I've seen as bad under Jose or Conte. Or I agree. I think it's one of the worst Tottenham performances I've seen in my lifetime. We could barely get out of our own half. We could barely string two passes together. We were absolutely awful, and we lost every 50-50 battle. We lost every second ball. One of the worst performances I've ever witnessed from any football team, let alone Tottenham Hotspur.
And even Ross saying you could tell within the first 10 minutes that we were going to lose that game.
Yeah.
Sometimes intensity and mentality trumps individual quality. We completely lacked the former. I completely agree with Ross there on that one. You could get that vibe from a very get go that this wasn't going to be a good day whatsoever. But big up to Ross, and I completely agree. And thank you, Edward, as well as Artist T, for the
Mm.
support earlier. Christian saying a gentle reminder that Daniel Levy opted to loan Timo Werner instead of
Yeah.
getting Eze. With Eze, he actually missed some chances, but that one touch that he flicked on Mateta was absolutely absurd. The way that he could flick that on Mateta, and you think about a game like this where Ange Postecoglou strangely decided to take Madison and Kulusevski off. It would have been nice to have still had some sort of creative type player that we know is of real quality that you could still have on the pitch to make things happen, like an Eze. And also, we know with Eze is that he's going to be somewhat different to a Brennan Johnson, different to, of course, Timo Werner and others, where he can create chances maybe better than some of our wingers can, who seem to be more in kind of the goal scoring mode, where they like to be played in behind. They like to be given the chances to score, not as much create the chances for others. And someone like Eze could have really helped us out in a game like this, where no one's completing any passes, no one's really that sharp, no one's able to link things together. You can be that guy with just that bit of extra quality, that bit of extra composure, that time on the ball that you allow yourself. And I think Eze, again, would have been a very useful player for Spurs. And it's just something I think we'll continue to rue throughout this campaign, not bringing in someone like him for this season.
It was a shocking decision. And look, at the time, many people saying, oh, it's all right for a backup, Dave. He's barely going to play. Well, that hasn't been the case. It's a squad game, and when you need players off the bench and stuff, I'd much rather return someone like Eze, or if he's coming to replace, someone like Madison or Kulu off the bench, than someone like Timo Werner. It was absolutely mismanaged that last window from the very beginning when they bought Timo Werner in. I said it. He's not a player you bring in at the start of the window because there's not massive interest in the guy. You don't need to knee jerk. You wait to the very last day. If you can't get other options in, then you pivot to someone like Timo Werner. Then you bring him in. Not at the start of the window. It was absolutely disgusting. And one of our problems yesterday is you needed someone that could get on the ball, take players on, and make things happen, unlock the door. We had Timo Werner to come off the bench to try and do it, and Eze is the one that made the difference.
Yeah.
It's absolutely shocking. And the thing is, we could have pulled Eze from them. We probably would have won that, and that would be 3 points on the board.
Chris saying, I'm quite surprised at the number of fans that are adamant that Ange is about to be sacked. I don't think Levy is anywhere remotely close to pushing that button. I kind of agree with Chris. I don't think we're at that stage as much as the fans, at least a decent portion of the fans, seem to be at that stage, Dave. I'm not too sure if Daniel Levy's at that stage. We're not getting those vibes yet.
No, I don't think there's anywhere near remotely to being sacked, to be brutally honest. I don't think it's anywhere near it. I think, this will definitely go on into the new year for sure.
And Bill Gardner saying Dave said Mateta was 10 stone overweight. I saw him take his shirt off. I was in that much shape. Maybe Dave didn't see as much the muscle kind of, combination that Mateta has there. I think Dave maybe didn't give Mateta the best of seeing eyes there. Maybe Dave, you didn't notice the muscle.
That guy does barely anything on a football pitch. He's not a footballer. He's like Akin Fenway, if anyone remembers that guy. You know what I mean? He way overweight to ever really be a world-class footballer or reach them heights. Yes, he scored against us, but let's not get carried away. That's because we were god-awful. If we were anywhere near it, he wouldn't have got a touch of that ball yesterday.
I will be honest. I think my pro club's character kind of looks like Mateta, uphill Gardner, very beefy, very large, kind of wide shouldered, but not very much a footballer type mold, more of an MMA type, player, if you will, very a little too much on the muscle. But big up, my friend. Really appreciate you tuning in. Cody Mack saying dreadful. Palace have laid a blueprint today. Spurs lost possession 49 times in the build up against Palace tonight, leading to 7 shots. It's the worst single game result in the Premier League this season. I think that was just pretty much the main gripe about this game, Dave. Like you said, we couldn't get out of our own half. We struggled to be able to deal with Palace's press. And it pretty much took us something like 70, 80 odd minutes in order to actually start breaking into Palace's opposition half there. It took forever.
Look, I said after 20, 25 minutes, Spurs need to start putting the balls down the channels or feeding it into Dom Solanke, bypassing their press and dragging Spurs up the football pitch, or the inevitable is going to happen. And we kept on trying to do the exact same thing. And, fair play to Palace. They play 5 across the back. They pushed their fullbacks nice and high to press us. Their midfield and the forward line, we had no outball whatsoever in terms of that midfield. And we kept on trying to pluck it in there from the centre-backs or from the goalkeeper, which routinely ended up being given away. Or as soon as it went in there, we had no time on the ball. They took it off us and came back at us. And that's when we didn't play misplaced passes straight into their feet, by the way. It was absolutely shocking, nowhere near good enough. And, this is why I say Ange was tactically outclassed yesterday. Okay, have your style, have your philosophy. But if you're in a game 20, 25 minutes in, especially against someone like Crystal Palace, have the smarts to be able to switch it up, look for that outball, look for that avenue, and get the game going the other way. And then later on in the game, once you have Palace pen back in their own half from what you're doing, then you exercise your game plan yet again. You know what I mean? Then you get back to go, okay, they're pushed back in the half, now start getting on a game plan because we're now playing in their half. But he didn't do it.
No, he didn't. And Gwen Evans saying, "Afternoon, guys. Great show as always. Listen to. I've been a Spurs fan since over 50 years. Seen us win things under great Bill Nicholson and Keith Birkinshaw. That performance yesterday was totally spineless. No, spineless is absolutely the right word. Keep going on here. John McKenzie saying, everyone talking about the Ten Hag sacking, me doing analysis versus Palace and Spurs. Definitely broke the internet and probably in a way spared us maybe of a further analysis when it comes to that result, seeing the Man United sacking. Still behind Ange. It takes time, Mitch Fretton. Well, he's still with our man Ange by the looks of things. Good to see you, Mitch. Luca THFC saying how feels not checking Spurs Twitter after a loss. I think this was Dave, when he doesn't have to go into Twitter after a Spurs loss. Dave, to see you yesterday?
Yeah, look, when we lose, I refuse to go into Twitter, to be honest. I sort of just take the evening away, and then the next day I wake up, I'll start sort of going through it and stuff like that when common sense has prevailed a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think we all could channel our inner Ryan Gosling, especially in moments like this, if we could, to enjoy some time away from Spurs, especially times like that. Jersey Spurs, just quickly, it gets annoying sometimes whenever I hover over the tweet. Some reason it does that. Jersey Spurs. Let me just go back down here. Jersey Spurs saying, do we know why he took off Kulusevski and Madison yet? As obviously that made no sense to anyone. Dave, I think Kulusevski didn't really do much to deserve to stay on the pitch. But James Madison, he also took off. And maybe that was the perplexing one, was James Madison. It's not like he was playing tremendously well or anything, but he was playing, I think, slightly better than Kulusevski was. Did Ange make a mistake by taking off both creative players at the same time, really? Maybe he should have left one of them on.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I think the problem's twofold. I think with how physical the game was, part of it was make sure they're both ready for Man City. But I question, is 2-10's the right approach against Man City Wednesday night? Probably not. But also, look, Kulusevski was absolutely horrible yesterday. He was really, really poor yesterday.
He's like me in
And
pro
look,
clubs.
probably deserved to come off. For me, I do think if you wanted to start playing into that forward line, you could have put him out on either side of the wing again as a guy that could hold up the ball for you if you wanted to change it that way. Madison, look, when the game gets tough, Madison usually goes hiding. I can't really put that on him yesterday. I thought he did try. I thought he was probably the better performances out of the midfielders yesterday, and that's not saying much considering how bad we were. But yeah, especially when you're bringing on someone like Timo Werner, Jack, a guy that Ange said in the embargo section of the press conference, the lack of end product is just not good enough. Many Spurs fans are saying it. We've saying it for a long time. And we're going to take off a guy who has created and scored goals this year for a guy who has zero end product. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I think he could have kept Madison on just a little bit longer for me, Jersey Spurs. And then Kulusevski. I love Kulusevski. He's been playing brilliantly, but he just wasn't helping us in any way that game. He was hurting us more than he was helping us, just wasn't being that creative threat that we know he can be. Just was losing the ball really at a lot of, periods where you just don't really expect Kulu to lose the ball, but yet he was. And also was kind of giving away some silly fouls at times as well. Some people were
Mm.
saying that he was very close to getting a red at some stage, which maybe you can't disagree with. Jason, I just thought this was funny. Actually, I don't know why I really included it in the bookmarks. Just thought it kind of just showed how kind of petty of a person Jade Sancho is. He apparently gave a bye emoji and a bald emoji to Eric Ten Hag, but I know we're talking about Tottenham Hotspur. Oliver Freeman saying, didn't want Poch to go, didn't want to see Jose Nuno and Conte go. I just wanted us to stick with the manager. Too many fans think changing the manager is the answer. Ange improved us last season from the previous. Why would you want to shit the bed 9 games in? I mean, Oliver Freeman, Dave, it seems like he's a little lost at the moment. He just wants to stick by a project, but he's starting to see the signs of fans growing disgruntled with manager.
Look, I think it's probably a sign where we're at, right? You've got some fans that, say, look, this is a process. It's a project. You're going to have these sort of ups and downs in a project. You keep saying to me, sack the manager's going to work, but we've done that. Look, it hasn't really changed much at Tottenham Hotspur. And, when you look at the likes of Arteta, Arsenal, and other managers, for instance, with stability, usually you get to where you want to go to. Even when we had Pochettino, with that stability, it took us to the greatest heights. It took us to challenging and stuff like that. So I can definitely understand that point of view. But then I also understand the other point of view where it's like, look at the inconsistencies, look at the ups and the downs, look at our poor away record, stuff like that. Um, but what I would say is some of the things that people point out have been inherent at Tottenham before Postecoglou in terms of set pieces was a huge problem before Postecoglou got here. Away form was a huge problem before Postecoglou got here. And I think the biggest thing Postecoglou needs to change in and around the club is the mentality. And right now he's doing it without any real leaders in the squad. And yes, you can say he's had 400 million to spend and he should have bought them in by now. But like I've said before, I don't think we're a club that operate like that, where we go to the manager, what do you want? Okay, Graham, we'll go and get it for you. It's sort of like, I think we pick the players, and it's like you're coming in here to work with them. And look, he's probably been let down in the transfer window. I heard the same arguments for Jose and Conte. Oh, but they got what they wanted in the transfer window. If they're here, that's what they wanted. It's like, not necessarily. It's only when they've left the club where the real truth comes out. It's like, look, this is what I actually wanted, and this is what they told me I'm working with. For instance, Jose Mourinho, the famous one, I wanted Kim Min Jae for 5 million from the Chinese league. They brought me in Joe Rodon from Swansea from the Championship for 11 million. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And I think where I'm at with the project right now, I'm sick of changing managers, and I think every time you change manager, you're going in different directions. You're wasting money. For me, I think Postecoglou is a season and a bit into the job. I think I need longer, to be brutally honest, to really make a decision on whether he deserves going forward, to take this team forward or not. But I also sat there and thought about last night, Jack. I think there are similarities to what Arsenal went through. Arsenal tried to bring in proven managers after Arsene Wenger, didn't really work out. We done the same after Pochettino, didn't work out. Then they brought in Arteta, who a lot of their fans
A gamble.
questioned, naive, everything
Yeah.
else. There's the split in their fan base. Some saying it's a project, some saying he's got to go, he's a fraud. And now look at them; they're challenging on all fronts, and a lot of Spurs fans are looking at that, going, "That's what we want." And I think we are sort of following in them footsteps in terms of similarities. You even go from stadium to stadium. I think we are just a little bit behind them in terms of what we do at Tottenham Hotspur. Maybe the question is Daniel Levy copying Arsenal's blueprint?
Um, Then we also have Sam saying, if it seems like we all went into this game with complacency, we expected Crystal Palace to roll over and take a drubbing, but that's not how football works, unfortunately. Everyone involved needs to hold on to this. We thought the Brighton game would be a lesson learned, but we still see the same. I think I agree with Sam that it seemed like a bit of the mentality of the players was that of complacency and that, maybe overexcitement or maybe just kind of expectation that they were going to get the win, in this one. And it isn't guaranteed, especially with a team like Crystal Palace that are desperate to get some points on the board, desperate to get themselves away from a relegation scrap. They were never going to make it easy on us. And that was part of the reason why you and I had gone for 2-1 kind of predictions ahead of the game. You and I did not think it was going to be a 3-0, 4-0, like maybe we would other games this season. This was going to be one that you and I knew was going to be difficult, was going to be hard. Crystal Palace weren't going to make it easy on us. And it seemed like the players did think that. They seemed to think it was going to be, I guess, an easy
Mm.
game. And they got really outplayed and outmatched and outfought. And also, as we brought up before, tactically as well, got outplayed on it as well. Dave Ellis saying Spurs, me trying to enjoy my life. Yep. They're just the constant thorn in the side, one that you signed up for. Zeus saying the stupid thing is, I reckon we beat City on Wednesday because that's just the Tottenham way. Dave, do you have any hope for Man City, or do you think things could continue and
Um,
maybe frustration?
my only hope is Guardiola lives up to his words after the last League Cup game, and he says we're not going to play our best players, we're not going to take it seriously, we're going to throw out a lot of youngsters. I'm hoping that's the case, and we can catch them cold and go and win that. But if they put out anywhere near to a close sort of full strength team, sadly, I think we might give it a go. But I think inevitable. I think City will probably get over the line.
Good to see DYT2 in the house as well. Arteta out will ring again soon. Jimmy Hotspur saying last 16 Premier League games, he's gotten us 9 defeats. No, that's not good at all. Jimmy Hotspur, the reptile keeper, good to see you as well. And then John Lee saying anytime we play without Sonny, we play super poor, except in the Man United game. Nabil N17 saying Ange's in-game management is average at best, 9 times out of 10. He gets the subs completely wrong and has no answers tactically to what other managers are doing. Lost 4 of our first 9 league games this season. Would you agree with the first part, Dave, that lots of times he gets the subs wrong, or would you say that's an exaggeration there? I think recently he's actually been getting subs right with Pop Matasar, as well as some other changes that he's been making during the game. But I would say in the past, I've also been frustrated with some of Ange's kind of in-game substitutions. Where do you lie on maybe that first part? Because I think the second part, I don't know if you have any comment on that, but the first part I think is interesting about maybe the substitutions getting wrong.
Yeah, I would. I would say. I would say probably average at best is probably the right word to describe it, because it wasn't so long ago after the West Ham game, people were praising Ange Postecoglou for a substitution that no fan would have said to make at half time in that game. So I
True.
think it's a bit
True.
up and down in terms of, some weeks he'll come out with praise, like he's changed it, and other weeks people are questioning his substitutions that time. So I would say maybe that is an area where Ange Postecoglou probably needs to work on.
And as well, we have Jan saying the VAR guy has FPL open for FC.
Jesus. And someone, you're not telling me that guy isn't going to influence a decision to help him in his fantasy team, especially if he's a point or two away from someone. Come on.
This apparently is the manager app, but I think I'd like to believe that it was the Fantasy Premier League app instead. I'm gonna fry this effing chickens. Batter it up. HLTCO said, had quite a few Spurs fans saying, don't worry, Dr. Tottenham will sort you out on Sunday. I don't think even the most Spursy Spurs team will struggle with us given our showing tonight. Well, Crystal Palace, you were wrong. HLTCO, we were, in fact, Dr. Tottenham that everybody was advertising to you. So it is, in fact, a very true scenario. Mark saying that game was the worst I've seen for many a year. Every player to a man was abysmal. 3 away wins in 2024 is simply atrocious. We are a mid-table side. It's a hard one to take, Mark. Very, very hard one to take. Good to see you with us, though, my friend. Tottenham Simpsons, he's back. Hi, everybody. That was a great one from the Simpsons. I loved that character. And also the way when they died. What was it when the character died? Bye, everybody. No context, Tottenham. Just sorry, I'll get back to this. Spurs, Gianni Vio. Dave, do you miss Gianni Vio at this moment in time? So many corners we just never do anything with, attacking
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah. Look, he wasn't. I think there was a misconception about Gianni Vio when he was at Tottenham. He had nothing really to do with defensive set pieces. It was all attacking set pieces. Yeah, maybe you could say we miss him, but look, for me, a good set piece all comes down to the delivery. If you put a good delivery in, you're going to get players that are going to attack that ball and get on the end of it, and I think that's where our problem lies.
Christian Romero in 24-25.
Fancy off. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. He's been poor this year.
Oh, what a card that was. THFC Mike, watching Arsenal score set pieces every game has got me reminiscing. Everybody's missing Gianni Vio after today. The caller saying we are a mid-table side. Discuss. I mean, technically we are sitting around mid-table, but we're in a very mid-table position in the beginning stages of the season. This is true mid-table after about 9 games. I think we're what, 4 or 5 points off of top four, and I think we're 4 or 5 points off of like 18th or something like that. I mean,
Mm.
that's just true mid-table positioning. So you could look at it both ways. Either we're very dangerously close to being dragged into the lower ends of the table, or very close to competing with the very best at the top end of the table.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up absolutely perfectly there, Jack. But what I will say is, it's why I say to fans, sometimes be careful what you wish for, because if I'm correct, Jack, most fans said they couldn't care if we finished mid-table in the league. They wanted a trophy. That's what it's all about. So, in some regard, why the uproar after a defeat if Spurs fans said they didn't care about the league?
And this one saying, Gus wasted all weekend for that. I'm not going to try to show the captains because there's a lot of cursing in it, but I think this was Dave pretty much after saving up all his time for this weekend. This guy's absolutely losing it at work here. Absolutely
Don't
losing
blame
it.
them.
Definitely don't blame him. Sue saying we played like the team that haven't won a game all season. Yeah, that's very good point, right? Crystal Palace, a team that hadn't won a single game up until that point. They absolutely dominated us and outclassed us. We look like the team that didn't have a clue. We look like the team that didn't have much of an idea. Good to see
Mm.
Richard Freckleton. Love the name, Richard. Absolutely love it.
Yeah,
I'm a man
Richard.
of many freckles and love that name. We have Jimmy Hotspur in here as well. Daniel Coys. We have Patty Hartnett. Good to see you, Patty. Hopefully
Yeah,
everything's all
Paddy.
right with you. It's watching Spurs in the 90s or the thousands. You just don't remember what
Yeah.
team will turn up. Yeah, or you just don't know what team will turn up. Completely agree. Um, Mark saying Europa League, Dave, in the 7 wins. Look at the Prem games. Yeah, I think some people are making that distinction today, Mark, that a lot of the wins have been more carried by Europa League games mixed in with Premier League results. Where if you just looked at the Premier League results in isolation, not the best of reading. I think that was brought up earlier, and you're absolutely right there, Marky. Dell support, really appreciate the generous donation and support here. Hopefully you're okay, my friend. I feel like we see you in the chat every now and again, so hopefully you're
Mm.
doing okay. Hopefully life is treating you well, apart from Spurs, at least at this moment in time. And they're saying awful result yesterday. Can't understand why we show up for some games, but not for others, such as yesterday. Also baffled why Reguilon is not a backup for Destiny Udogie. Thought he would have been perfect for Ange's system. Two parts here, Dave. First part, about why it feels like, just don't understand why we just can't show up for games like this one. That's the first part of Dell's
I
support.
think look, a lot of our problems come away from home, Jack. When we're at home, I don't think many people have a problem. I think, we've got a decent record. I think we all expect us to go out there and play our football and win games. But away from home, sometimes the pitches are a lot more tight. The stands are a lot more on top of you and stuff like that. It's a bit different. But most importantly, that's where you need your leaders in how you prepare for the game. Getting you up to the right intensity heading out to the game, but also leading you through difficult moments in the game away from home. This is something I touched on the pre-match build-up again. At home, when the crowd's behind you, it's a lot easier than when you are away from home. When we're away from home, and this isn't just under Ange Postecoglou, go back to Jose, go back to Conte. I highlighted it all before. A lot of our defeats, especially in cup competitions, etc., have all come away from home over them periods of time. It's been a huge problem for Tottenham Hotspur. And when you look at Jose, when you look at Conte, and when you look at the amount of manager turnover, staff turnover, coaches turnover we've had in general, it stinks of a lack of leadership in the squad. Because if you had 4 to 5 good leaders in that squad, you wouldn't see players turning on managers very quickly, turning on the methods very quickly and stuff like that. You wouldn't see us crumble away from home as soon as the going gets tough. So for me, them problems stem from the lack of leadership. And I highlighted it in the summer. I said we have a golden opportunity here to sign a few leaders to come into this squad and really help propel us along, and we didn't do it.
Mm. And then on to Reguilon, I guess. I'm a little bit baffled by the decision as well, why he hasn't really been kept around by Spurs. It seems like there's just this mutual acceptance or something like that, that he doesn't maybe want to be here anymore. Perhaps managers don't want him to be here anymore. And it's just this limbo type situation where Spurs aren't really willing to just cancel the contract or give him away for a really low price fee. They want to try to get some money back on maybe their original investment. And it's just that classic Spurs scenario where guys that maybe we know don't really have any future left at the club are just being kind of kept around, kind of hung around for no real reason at all. But don't get me wrong, I think Reguilon was a good player for Spurs. I think he helps us out a lot when it comes to crossing. I think that was his best attribute was if you did get him with time and space in those wide areas, I think Reguilon was actually a very underrated crosser of the ball. He usually did find his target and he did a good job of either bending it, kind of in the air with like a nice in swinger, or he could play it on the floor, kind of across the 6 yard box. He was good at both, in my opinion. He was just a very
Mhm.
good, accurate crosser of the ball. And we know that he's a very speedy player too, that he can get up and down pretty well. It's just defensively always a bit of a liability, if you ask me, Sergio Reguilon. And maybe that was part of the reason why certain managers didn't like him. And maybe in possession, can he do necessarily what Destiny Udogie can he come into midfield? Can he play kind of this hybrid inverted fullback type role? I'm not too sure, but Sergio Reguilon, I think during his time at Spurs has been sadly a bit hard done by having to watch Ryan Sessegnon and guys like Ben Davies have
Yeah.
to play ahead of him. But I don't know. I just think it's been a decision made by the club as well as the manager, Del Support. And unfortunately, Reguilon, I don't think has much of a future here, despite my appreciation for him, or at least my soft spot for him, if you will. And I'm not too sure if Dave exactly has a soft spot for him, but I think Dave somewhat agrees with maybe what I had to say with what Reguilon technically could offer and why it did feel a bit weird to not have him around, as a backup for the season if we
Mhm.
weren't going to get a left back at all. But we did need a left back. We knew we needed a left back and we didn't get one.
Yeah. No, huge problem at left back. Now we're stuck with playing Destiny Udogie every week. And look, it's a weird one with Reguilon because he done an interview, I think, when he left for Man United or when he was at Brentford, and he said, "Look, before I left the football club, I was pulled in by Ange Postecoglou, told him I was in his plans. Next thing, 48 hours later, I was told I'm being shipped out, and with no explanation why." And for
Hmm.
me, I've always said when I look at the European squad, there's a couple of foreign players that have to be cut adrift because we have too many, and unfortunately, he's one of the ones that seems to be taking the bullet.
Yeah. It was an awful result yesterday. Dell Support, just terrible. And I hope Spurs can quickly turn it around. And like I said a million times yesterday, bad day at the office type of saying. I hope that that's what's true and we can quickly forget about this result with some good results afterwards. But if we don't, and we don't pick up any good results soon, I think this game might be one of the signs of potential falling out maybe with the manager, but we'll only tell later on. I'm not going to make my mind up completely yet. At one point, I was getting very close with Ange Postecoglou, but he won me back over. I'm still going to stay loyal to him now, at least for the time being, Dell Support, and because I do feel like we are building something special, and I think for the majority of games, we are playing some very good football. It's just we let ourselves down a lot of times with either
Mm.
poor finishing, individual errors. But in this game, I don't think I can use those excuses. I think the excuses I can give are not really excuses. They're more just explanations, just us being tactically outclassed and also the players just not being up for the fight either and willing to pull themselves
Mm.
together to try to get something out of it. Because it's not like we needed to lose all 3 points. There was still a chance, I think, in that game to get something out of it, get a point, get a goal against the run of play, hold on to the result. But Spurs weren't even good enough to do that in this game, which I think just shows that we were just completely out of it, completely lost out there. So that's how I kind of see Adele Support. Just a really bad day at the office, and hopefully it can be, um, hopefully it can be fixed sometime soon. Really appreciate the
Two,
generous support.
two things from that game they'll support, and I've noticed. One is when teams turn it up on us and look to get stuck into us, put the pressure on us, not give us any time and space on the ball, we relinquish. We don't have the answers for it. It's the same against Brighton in the second half. All they done was turn up the intensity, and we couldn't deal with it. They put in tackle after tackle, and we didn't like it. We didn't have the answers for it. That's one thing where the team are going to have to grow up and learn, because it doesn't really matter what manager you have. It really doesn't matter. Teams are going to do that to you, and you're going to have to come out and find the answer eventually. You can't blame tactics, systems, and stuff like that. That comes down to character. But second of all, I think you're seeing typical prima donnas up against a team that have everything, nothing to lose at this point. And I think that game panned out. We thought Palace were going to give us respect because we turn up, we play possession football. We just thought they were going to give us the respect. We didn't earn it. We thought it was given. And at the end of the day, Palace said, F these guys, what have we got to lose? Go and get in their face. And that's something I've always said, Jack. If you're an underdog team, and this is what we should do against Man City, if you don't have the same talent level on the pitch, go and get up in their face, because usually the nice guys on the ball who look good, they don't like the rough and toughness of the game.
No, and Absolutely right. Thank you, Dell Support, for the generous support, and it's good to have you with us today. Hopefully, you're doing okay though, everything life wise, because I think we see you every now and again in the chat. But good to actually hear
Mm,
from you, and really appreciate you sending in your thoughts to the channel and supporting us. Ribsy85, one of the goats of the channel. Good to see you,
is it?
Ribsy. Hopefully, you're okay, sir. By this sad face, sounds like you're not, but maybe everything outside of Spurs is doing all right for you. Leslie Crawford, good to see you with us. Outer S Fasare, good to see you as well. Wayne Bonner, good to see you, sir. Palace were far better than us. Wanted it. More fight from them. The team lacks backbone, guts, and fight. I think we completely agree with you there, Wayno. Let's keep it moving though. Here we Apollo Keefe saying, "When we stink, we properly stink. We reek." Joe saying, "Vicario shit, Poro shit, Poro Kulisevsky shit, Madison shit, Brennan shit, Slank shit, more shit, Czar shit, Bedcourt shit, Werner shit, Richarlison shit, and shit. All terrible. Don't protect them because
Yeah.
you want to win online debates." It's one of those days, Dave, where even if you do have a favorite player, even if you do have a guy that you prefer over others, no reason to say
Yeah.
one guy played better than another. Everybody was terrible.
No, 100%. We said that on the show yesterday.
Hmm.
After the watch along, everybody was crap. There's no one that's getting a free pass, or there's no one that you're going to say, oh, well, he done all right. Nope. From 1 to 11, they were crap.
Yeah. Tottenham, when my mental health needs destroying.
Yeah.
Cody Mack, we are getting outplayed. We can't deal with. Gosh, I hate that hovering thing that happens. Seems to happen when I do the zoom in method. But Cody Mack saying, we are getting outplayed. We can't deal with their press. Too many players, casual with the ball, not moving it quickly enough. Palace are set up impeccably. Makes it look like we're down a player. Way too many turnovers resulting from their press. Change needed or we'll lose. Well, looks like Cody Mack was right. And when he tweeted that mid game, it's exactly what happened. Spurs fan John saying, "So which manager is going to get to utilize 20-year-olds Bergvall and Gray and a 19-year-old Mikey Moore? Because at this rate, it won't be Ange. I'm not saying I want Ange out, but how long will he be given?" A genuine question. John, Spurs man. Surprised to see this from John. Love John, but just decide to throw him in there, Dave. I mean, seems to think that maybe Ange Postecoglou isn't the right guy to take on these younger players.
Yeah, look, I think there's many like that. And I sort of have a question that we're going to answer this week. What many fans, I think, were a lot quicker to turn on Conte and Jose Mourinho, and I think there seems to be a bit more resilient towards Ange Postecoglou actually inside the Spurs fan base, and I want to know why. So that's probably something that we're going to touch upon this week. But look, people can doubt Ange all they want. They're more entitled to. They watch the games like we do. They dedicate their time like we do. They pay to support the club the way we do. People are more than entitled to their opinion. But look, you're not going to get onto the good times without going through tough times. Under Pochettino, we went through tough times before the good times came. It's just the way it is, and I think I think Ange Postecoglou is the right man. I think going forward, I think he will, take us to where we want to go, which is competing. It's just going to be a longer process than what he has had at other clubs, because at other clubs, M clubs have more or less given him the investment that he's wanted and the players that he's wanted. At Tottenham Hotspur, with our ownership, it's always going to be done in increments. And I think many fans need to realise that no matter what manager we bring in here, they are not going to deliver instant results or anything similar to what they have done at other clubs, because they won't be given the same sort of mechanisms and support to make it happen straight away. So it's always going to be done in increments, and that's just down to whether you personally have the patience for it or not. Me, I don't have the patience for hiring and firing managers anymore. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. Big up though, John. Surprised to see this, my friend. Would like to know your thoughts on it if you ever want to come on a fan show or something like that. Luki THFC saying Tottenham when it's time to be shit. Prime shit is what Spurs can turn into. Absolutely prime version. Ricky from the football cock podcast, very famous podcast, saying, "I just don't understand how the entire team were rubbish. I can't think of any positives or a stand-up player. How does this even happen? We're so inconsistent, frustrating." I think that's also where some of the frustration does come though from Spurs fans is you go 7, 8 games, with some really good form, and then a result like this comes about. Is that just part of the route with this team? Is that kind of part of the building under Ange Postecoglou that we can't go in for a significant period of time with really good results? We can only go about 7, 8, 9 games, and then these sort of results just come every now and again, because that's not really sustainable over a large period. You can't have results like this over a huge period. But is this also part of the growing pains of developing a new team, developing under a new manager. Is this what happens? You go on good streaks and then you have days like this where just have to, I guess, accept that, they're going to try to work their way through really bad days like this.
But
Or is
then
this something that's going to be permanent? That's the question people on people's minds.
I think it's growing pains, Jack. But I do think it comes down to, like you're saying, if you're going on streaks and then all of a sudden you come up into these sort of periods, for me, that's nothing to do with the manager. The manager's tactics and all, and whatever he's doing has got you on them streaks. That comes to players then when they're winning, losing their head, getting ahead of themselves, getting too cocky, getting too arrogant, getting too complacent, not willing to do the hard yards, because you're winning. And I think, at Tottenham Hotspur, I think sometimes because we don't have them experienced players in and around the dressing room, we don't have anyone that knows how to win. Because when you hit them 7, 8 games consistency, you don't start enjoying your life. You don't start having an extra drink or an extra burger or anything like that, or, an extra bat here and there and slacking off on work. That's where you double down and work harder, because you realize, okay, at that point, if you can go on an 7, 8 game consistent sort of winning streak, you have something there. At that point, then, you need the right leaders in and around the squad to say, okay, all this is an indication that we have the ability to do it. But are you willing to work hard, sacrifice, and continue to do what you're doing, and even more, to make that go even longer, to give yourself the chance at the end of the season to win the silverware? I don't think we have that at Tottenham. I think we get guys that will get carried away in the hype, get blown away with their egos, and that's because we don't have anybody in and around the club from top to bottom in terms of leadership, any coaches, anyone that's been there and done it.
Mark saying, Jack, thanks for the text being in focus for me. No problem, Mark, and let me know, everybody, if this is slightly better viewing pleasure for you guys with it being a bit more zoomed in. Would love to please everyone, not just Mark. Love you, Mark, but want to make sure that everybody does enjoy the new text and new format for this. Zeus saying our passing from the back has been horrendous, led to our own downfall there, Zeus. Prof Spur saying the closest thing the Spurs team is to found out is not counterattacking the high line. It's fouling the shit out of us and then rolling around on the pitch for 15 minutes. It's the ugly, disjointed game we struggle the most with. I think Palace found us out tactically, but then they also seem to kind of beat us with those kind of housery type moments, Dave, where, they were poking, they were prodding at us, they were being very physical with us. They were stalling the game, making it a very stop and start. They were able to get back into their shape almost in every single scenario whenever there was a dead ball. Just felt like Palace had won the game in different ways. They had won the game tactically, but they'd also won the game maybe with some of the things outside of, just playing on, the pitch really. They won the game mentality wise as well in this. But yeah.
No, 100% mentality wise, just something that we've been speaking about a long time. It's poor.
Return to the shelf saying there's more to this than tactics. When these players have had a bad day every few games, something is wrong. Is it the preparation, the intensity of the play, or the training? Are they feeding them pure stodge, lack of sleep? Hard to say, but it does feel like these results have been happening every 7 or 8 games. And maybe what Dave alluded to, it's just mentality of these players that they can, see the results of the tactics for 7, 8 games, get good results. But
It was the same under Conte and Jose, by the way, as well. Let's not forget that.
Oh yeah, plenty of results like this under those managers as well. I feel like this is
no, but I'm about winning streaks, Jack. There was winning streaks under Conte and Jose Mourinho as well. But like I said before, when you don't have anybody in the squad that has been there and done it, it's where you get complacent.
Carly saying Spurs official, please wake up. Yeah, definitely. They didn't at any point, sadly, Carly. THFC Jackson saying everyone excited and optimistic for the match today. So this 1-0 loss is going to hit like an absolute truck. Well, he was seeing something before it happened. Patty saying could be worse, I suppose. We could have City in the cup midweek, followed by Villa on Sunday.
Could be a long week, Spurs fans. Could be a very long week.
Cody Mack saying, there you have it. Awful play out from the back. I think he was just quote tweeting that absolutely spot on analysis from this part where he said this is the most we've struggled with the press this season, and ended up being completely true. Billy saying putting Mikey Moore through this surely is child abuse. Spurs fans put him under arrest. Simon Humane saying Tottenham, Dr. Tottenham in it. Yes, it is, Simon. Tottenham Maskey saying my stream is glitched, and Ange's face here is a perfect summary of how I feel.
Yeah. Looks a bit like Eric Dyer there. Eric Dyer shaped head.
Mickey Hazard, good to see from him in the Twitter, saying the rule of any football game at any level is you have to fight for the right to play. Today we didn't. Disappointing to say the least. I think that's a very true statement about the
How many times
mentality
have
of
you
the
heard me say that, lad?
yeah.
You know, you got to fight for it.
Not even just tactics at the end of the day too. It is about mentality. It is also
Yeah.
about the fight and the drive of the team. And I think that's what could have gotten us at least a point out of this, is that if we did see a bit more fight from the players, if we did see a bit more want, a bit more desire, I think we could have gotten something out of it. It wouldn't have excused the bad performance, but I think it would have at least shown that they have some sort of grit. They can work their way back into a game. But any of the opportunities that Palace did give us, and I think they gave us some opportunities to either score or get back into the game, get some sort of momentum back. And we just didn't take it. And we didn't seem like we wanted to take it either. And so that's just screams defeat really from the get
Yeah.
go, because Palace, yes, they outmatched us and outplayed us, but I still don't think they're that great of a side. Like, they still had some leaky moments where they could have maybe given us something and we didn't take them. Kulusevski had a chance, Richarlison had chances. There were other players that had decent chances in the day to get a goal against the run of play, and we just didn't take them. And I think that could have been our bailout in this one.
I would say though, Palace also had a lot of opportunities, and they
True.
could have been out of sight as well. You know.
True. That's what I mean with a bad team like that. They're going to waste chances like that, where it would have been nice to see
Mm.
us at least have the fight to try to get back into it if they are going to be bad enough to give us chances to get back into it. THFC Micah saying there was a lack of creativity the whole match, and he still didn't get 1 minute to show what he could do. Rejected arguably the biggest club in the world for us for game time, and we aren't even using him when we need him the most. Do you think Bergvall's frustrated with lack of minutes?
Do you know what? This is my problem though, Jack, and this is something I highlighted in the transfer window when we were signing some of these young players, and people were saying, "Oh, Dave, you're just being negative." Should we be relying on an 18-year-old guy to come off the bench and be our game changer? No, we shouldn't. You know, that's where we should have brought someone like Eze. That's where the conversation should be around, is the fact that we didn't have them sort of guys to bring off the bench when we really could have, and that's who we were led to believe was coming in here in the summer. You know, go sort of using Bergvall to make your point against Ange, I think is the wrong thing to do, because I think someone like me would just point back to the transfer window and go, okay. But, you know, obviously there was conversations about Eze, and, you know, people wanted him here, so why didn't we land him? If we had him, he would have changed the game yesterday. So I think it's the wrong conversation to be had personally. I get the point. I understand it. But as an 18-year-old kid, I think when you sign on to any club inside the top 4 or 5 of their league, I think you accept that it is going to take you longer to get first team appearances than if you were to so low and down in any of the leagues.
Carly saying, speaking about this match only, are there any positive takeaways? Struggling to think of one aside from Solanke's
No, zero.
unbelievable work rate. I don't even think work rate should even be praised in a game like that, to be honest. Just everyone was poor. I think there were varying degrees of people being shit, but everyone was shit. I think that's how you kind of put it. Just like that tweet we had earlier when it came to someone's player ratings, just giving everybody the shit tag. And I think that's probably correct. Billy saying, dressing up as a completed pass and scaring the Spurs team this Halloween.
Yeah.
Talking THFC saying Vicario apologizing to the away fans. I stand
I don't want to
corrected.
hear it. I don't want to
That's a
see it.
leader. You didn't like this day from Vic?
No, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Look, I get it. Look, he understands it. Thanks very much for actually understanding it from a human point of view, you know, and going, look, not acceptable. And this is just my personal opinion, and it's not aimed at Vicario because he's not here that long. But I've seen this from from players and squads since Pochettino days now. You know, out
Yeah.
there doing all this, and then next week or a few weeks down the line, the exact same fucking thing happens. I'm pretty sure we got apologies after the Brighton game, and we're sitting here, what, 3, 4 games later, sitting here speaking about the same shit. Tottenham letting you
Yeah.
down with a piss poor performance. So I don't want to see it. Your apology to me would be actions and winning football games consistently, so we can go and compete on the football pitch. Not any of this. I actually want to see us lifting trophies instead of putting our hands up apologising. I'm sick of it.
I completely agree there. But I think Vicario is doing the right thing, but it's not something to exactly overpraise for either. It's just kind of should be standard, to be honest. But everybody, that is the end of the Twitter Reacts. We got through it. Hopefully, we can just forget about this game, get some good results in either the Villa or the Man City one upcoming, cheer ourselves up a little bit, and also hopefully get some type of confidence back in the team, as well as Ange Postecoglou. They have some work to do. They have some work to do on the pitch, on the training ground, as well as to win us over as the fan base. But Thank you guys for joining us for this one. Thanks for supporting this channel. If you can, smash that like button. Do also send this out to anybody else who you might think would enjoy these sort of recaps, these type of sit-down sessions, therapy sessions for Tottenham Hotspur. Thank you as well to Edward supporting the channel from earlier, Artist T for supporting the channel from earlier as well, and Dell support. Very, very generous from all three of you there. But Dave, any final words from yourself here before we wrap this up?
Um,
Oh,
on them and stuff like that. Just at Jack on his Twitter page, and he'll get them included into these going forward. Or anything you want us to react to, just do the same thing. Thank you very much for tuning in. And look, brace yourself, buckle in. It's a long week ahead. It doesn't get
yeah.
any easier from here.
Fan show later, everybody. Join us for that. Look out for channel predictions. Just more match day, weekday content coming out your way, everybody. So strap in for it. Really appreciate your guys' support for this one. If you want to support the channel any further, think about becoming a member. And we'll see you all later for the fan show. But come on, you Spurs.
Come
The
on,
big
you
Ange
Spurs.
we trust. And we'll see you next time, everybody.